Thanks, Hans, but a little more delicate next time. Hey everybody, I'm RandomBystanderHere, and today we're going to play Battle for Bikini Bottom, Rehydrated.
Did somebody say jellyfishing?
The Wash underscore on Twitch. Am I dreaming again like that Spongebob Squarepants creature from the Krusty Krab video, which you can watch right after this review?
Despite that terrible plug, no. Your Discord speakers are loud.
Oh! Do you want to do another review, or... So, SpongeBob Squarepants, the show that needs no introduction.
I've spent so many hours on this show that I can honestly quote some episodes verbatim.
Oh, trust me, they can.
Sounds like you've got a dying animal to attend to. Ayo, chum.
Right. There were many SpongeBob games that have been created because of the underwater sea sponge's popularity.
Super Sponge, Truth or Square, PSP game Very Rare, Operation Krabby Patty, SpongeBob Squarepants, Movie Game, Boating Bass, Flying Dustbin Game Could Crash, Classic Triton, Fight Could Game, Light, Camera, and Pen. We didn't start the party!
But the most popular of the SpongeBob games was Battle for Bikini Bottom from 2003, developed by Heavy Iron Studios. Unlike their work on Up the video game, Battle for Bikini Bottom was well received, and is nowadays considered a classic platformer in the PS2 and GameCube era.
This game has not only been loved by fans of the show, but has also been heavily enjoyed by the speedrunning community, as hundreds compete for the best time in numerous categories. Little did we expect that the game would be remade in glorious HD and released on modern consoles over a decade later.
I'll be honest, I never thought this remake would happen. Spyro and Crash, I understand, but a remake of a licensed game is almost unheard of. It does raise the question, would a game made nearly 2 decades ago still hold up today? So today we're going to be looking at the Rehydrated remake, and see if it's just as good, or better, than the original. Does SpongeBob find the secret formula to this game, or is the remaster worse than a recipe of jambalaya?
Let's find out.
Hey, that's my line!
We begin at the chum bucket under the sea, where Plankton has finished his Duplicatotron 3000, a machine that creates various robot minions. Plankton tries to order his new army to steal the Krabby Patty formula, shocker, but due to a minor oversight,
What do you think you're doing?
it doesn't go well.
Meanwhile, in A Pineapple Under the Sea, SpongeBob and Patrick play robots and racehorses, an all-time classic, and wish they could actually play with real robots, with the help of the not-so-magic wishing shell. However, they wake up to see that their wish has backfired, and robots have invaded Bikini Bottom. Thus, SpongeBob must team up with Patrick and Sandy, and work together to defeat the robot menace.
It is an odd premise for a SpongeBob story, but a fine setup for the combat. And hey, it's about as silly as any SpongeBob episode would be.
And come on, Plankton has done some ridiculous and incompetent things in order to try and steal the formula.
The main object of the game is collecting golden spatulas, earned by exploring the level, fighting robots, and completing challenges. There's also the world's currency known as shiny objects, which are required to unlock areas and purchase more spatulas from the noxious greed of Mr. Krabs.
Also, you hit tikis to get shiny objects, and they have weird faces. You can also collect Patrick's socks all throughout the level too, and sort of works as a second collectible to the golden spatulas. You collect 10 of them for Patrick and then bam, he gives you a golden spatula. Which is weird because you play as Patrick and he sometimes collects the socks, so you have to give them back to him when he already has it.
Hey, who left this orb of confusion here? Speaking of playable characters, you can play as SpongeBob, Patrick, or Sandy Cheeks. SpongeBob has bubble-centric attacks, Bubble Bash, Bubble Bounce, Bubble Tea, and Bubble Spin.
Patrick is the brawn of the trio, who can lift and throw items like watermelons, fresh from the manure fields, and even enemies stunned from his ground pound.
And Sandy can use her lasso ability to glide across gaps and swing off Texas-shaped hooks. She can also use her karate skills on her foes. SpongeBob is unique among them in that he's the only one to learn new power-ups along the way.
The game uses all the characters very well, as each level has specific challenges designed for their different moves. And the levels are not only designed very well, but they also hold references throughout the show. Jellyfish Fields, Goo Lagoon, Rock Bottom, the Mermalair, the police station.
You really feel like you're exploring all the fun locations in and around Bikini Bottom. Look how well they recreated Shady Shoals.
The game has really solid controls too. Everyone is responsive, and it feels just like I was playing the original back in 2003. In fact, Rehydrated is extremely faithful to the original. The level layout, gameplay elements, music, all from the 2003 version with very minor changes. If you played the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, you've played Rehydrated. Which isn't bad, the platforming is still good, even today. Most of the levels are fun to explore and packed with creative ideas. The new development team added some Easter eggs, like SpongeGar in the Goo Lagoon Cave, SpongeBob and Patrick doing the meme face from the SpongeBob movie, certain fish dabbing.
There are also small gameplay differences those familiar with the original might notice. Pasta's ground pound, for example, let out a force field in the 2003 version, so you could see clearly if the robots were in range of your stun attack. In Rehydrated, there are no force fields, only uncertainty.
I found myself having to get closer to the robots, only to get hit because I was a little too close. There's also other smaller things, like the sponge balls being a little heavier. It's little adjustments that may not seem much for casual players, but speedrunners of the classic might have to get used to this one.
Speaking of things we're used to, we have the original game's voice cast. Literally, it's the same exact lines, no additional recording. But the crew did a good job back then, and they still hold up now. Well, most of the original cast.
Evil! Why do they have different voice actors for Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man? It bothered me in the original, and it still bothers me now.
I don't know if Clancy Brown or Ernest Borgnine couldn't make it at the time, but the voice actor they hired as a replacement, yes, one guy voiced both of them, just couldn't hold a candle to the original.
I guess I wish they re-recorded the lines with the original voice actors. Yeah, that wouldn't have been possible with Ernest Borgnine, rest in peace. But would it really have been that much trouble to get Clancy Brown to be Mr. Krabs here? He is no stranger to video games.
Perkins, you
Rando, you're going on a tangent again.
Ah, tartar sauce.
Anyways, the major changes with this game are the graphical fidelity and overall aesthetics, and there are some improvements.
The big ones are the models and the facial animation. Each character is more expressive compared to the original. SpongeBob's eyes show a lot more expressions, and you can see a lot more details in the model. The robots, especially the bosses, have so much detail that they look creepier than ever.
However, it seems to be just the main characters with the more detailed animation. The background characters look very similar to the original model.
It's a nice touch when they are detailed though, and it makes the cutscenes and the dialogue exchange more lifelike and less like puppets. As for the level graphics, my god, did someone crank up the brightness settings?
I don't know if it's the fault of the game engine, but these levels can get hyper-saturated, almost blindingly so.
For instance, Jellyfish Fields, a level that was heavily teased in the marketing, looks almost too colorful for me. It's just off a bit. On the other hand, levels like Kelp Forest are made much more appealing from the original confusing mess. I mean, sure, Kelp Forest is still a huge mess, but a brightness filter can only fix so much. Overall, it's not a bad remake, and graphically, it can make a huge difference. Unless you're like me and got the Switch version. In that case, there's a little bit of problems. A lot of stuff looks blurry from a distance, or not as detailed as it should be. But then when you get close, it's back to normal.
I don't think that's necessarily an issue though. The shallow depth of field works with the underwater aesthetics. Like a blurry shot of a sandy beach. It seems like a design choice to me, even if it may lack in graphical detail.
Even so, there have been a large amount of glitches in the Switch version. Slowdowns, game crashes, little bugs with the enemies. It feels like the Switch version could have been a lot more polished. Like it needed a bit more time in the game coding oven.
You got a point there. The original game was rushed for sure, but sometimes this seems even worse. The Switch port looks like it came from the late 2000s, not the early 2020s, man. The future. Everything is chrome and
It reminds me a bit of the Switch version of Bloodstained, where compared to its console brethren, the Switch version was limited in its graphical capability. Maybe the game will be patched later with some bug fixes, but until then, it's got more issues than the original.
But this version has one thing that the original doesn't have.
A football-playing king in space? With a mustache?
No! Multiplayer.
Yeah, remember the concept art in the original game about a robotic Squidward? They put that in the game and made it a whole multiplayer mode.
This mode is exclusive to Rehydrated, and since I only played the original, I can't comment. So, Random, what did you think?
The multiplayer is absolute
Random language.
It's really bad though. It starts out kind of cool, because you not only get to play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, but Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Gary, and Robot Plankton? Okay. Once the mode starts, you and your partner, which in my case was good old C-Snack over there as Gary, must work together to fight and defeat Robot Squidward. That means you're actually fighting him, right? Nope! You have to fight wave after wave of robot enemies, moving from island to island, slowly working your way to a switch you and your partner have to press, which removes a tentacle. Then rinse and repeat until every tentacle is gone. This is so tedious! The level design is literally just recycled assets from the Goo Lagoon level, and the music from Rock Bottom is the only track that plays throughout the whole multiplayer. The enemy spawn rate can get ridiculous, as the amount of enemies gets to the point where they are so ridiculous that they not only overwhelm you, but they make the game lag, which is already enough of a problem with the lag the Switch version has. Even if it was on a better console, the level is just dull, repetitive, and long. This level took me and my online Gary playing friend 45 minutes. 45 minutes! And we didn't even finish! Just as we were on the last island, C-Snack had enough and ended the game. All that progress wasted. Eventually, when I did play the mode in another video, what happened in the end? Robot Squidward sinks in the poorly textured water. It's awful. And honestly, C-Snack had the right idea of quitting. Wherever you are, C-Snack, C-Snake, whatever your name is, I hope you find peace.
You had a bad multiplayer experience on a SpongeBob game. That really sucks for you.
Overall, the game, despite the god-awful multiplayer, is still pretty decent. But since it's just a carbon copy of the original with the brightness setting cranked up, the real question is, does the game still hold up today? And I'd say, yeah, it does. The remake is faithful to the original, so if you want to replay the nostalgic SpongeBob classic you played in the 2000s on a modern console, the remake does a good job of it. It has everything that made the original good. Some nice lighting and scenery changes, and the gameplay is still fun. I have a blast playing as these characters even years later. Still, it does have its issues, especially the Nintendo Switch version. So while I think you should give the game a shot, maybe get it on another console, or even PC, at least until some patches are sent out.
Battle for Bikini Bottom is a pretty good 3D platformer, better than a licensed game should be, but I don't want to put too much hype on it. It's a fun collectathon that's really faithful to the show's world and humor, and that's all it needed to be. It's not groundbreaking. I really wish Patrick and Sandy had more involvement with the finale, or that they could upgrade their moves just like SpongeBob, but I never regret coming back to this once in a while. Plus, look how scared Mrs. Puff gets at the sight of her doom.
Thank you again, the Wash Underscore, for appearing in another SpongeBob related review. Say, where could people find your content?
I forget. Hopefully you put them in the description though.
Thanks again, Wash. I'm Random Bystander here, and I'm going to avoid sleeping because those tikis are about to appear in my nightmares tonight. Hey everybody, I'm Random Bystander here, and thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. Special thanks to the Wash Underscore for guest starring in this episode. I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot. Go check out the Wash Underscore on Twitch. Also listen to us in Work in Progress, a podcast the Wash Underscore, KirbyFan66, and I do, where we talk about Pixar-spective, anime, and a whole bunch of other stuff too. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and heck, even subscribe if you want. It really does help out the channel and means a lot to me. I also stream on Twitch. You can follow me on twitch.tv/randombystanderhere. You can also follow my other social medias on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you again so much for watching. It really does mean the world to me, and have a good night!